2, and 1. We're good to go. There we go. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream. Is the cycle different? Is the 4-year cycles over, or are we just feeding into the narrative that they want us to believe? This is the question that everyone's asking. It's been on top of my head. We've seen crazy, I guess you could call them mini black swans or whatever you want to call it, a bunch of strange stuff, strange behavior to say the least, crazy announcements, wrecking the charts, but then Bitcoin holding pretty strong, but then just not able to break through any of these levels, can't test all-time highs, just ranging between 103 and the 90s. And people are like, dude, what is even happening? Is there even any hope that this is going to keep going? And some people have exited the market. Some people are de-risking. Some people are doubling down. Half the people are saying we're going straight up from here. See you in 1 week. And some people are saying it's going to be a choppy next few months. Prepare for it. So I'm of the belief that it's going to be choppy no matter what we do. I think it's going to be a pretty horrendous market for people who are trying to actively, if you're a beginner trader and you're trying to actively trade to like make serious gains, I don't know. I'm gonna use this year to learn. But this is a pretty intense cycle, dude. Your emotions are going to be tested to the max. I feel like the way I learn is I have to just be thrown to the fire. So I feel like this year is perfect for me to go dive in heavy. But anyways, I got Dom on the stream, of course, the Giga Brain here on the show. And he's also got a bunch of charts pulled up as well that we're going to dive through. But Dom, welcome to the show. Of course, you're also hosting with me. I see all the people in the chat here as well.
Awesome.
What's going on? Yeah,
thanks for having me, Cade. Hopefully we could dig into, the idea of, is this 4-year cycle just a complete meme at this point? Or, is it over? Is it over and we just don't know it yet?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know is the short answer. I've got questions for Dom. Dom's got a bunch of things he's ready to go with. This is going to be great. I'm really excited to get into it. I see some people in the chat. Shout out to all of you, Abel, Hunter, Sebi, SB, Nathan. Shout out to all of you guys. If you could, please help us out. And if you enjoy these streams, at least you think they're helpful, please like, subscribe, do all the things. Dom's stuff, his linked down below in the description. And if you're on X, you can click him in the title and you can give him a follow. Highly recommend. But Jordan, the chat is working. The chat is working. But anyways, Dom, what kind of stuff were you looking to jump into first? I'll let you take it ahead because you've got some stuff pulled up already on Velo.
Yeah, totally. I basically just wanted to start off by saying that, this cycle, in my opinion, in the simplest way of why it's already been proven to be different is because of the institutional interest and more so ETFs. In my honest opinion, that has completely changed the whole landscape of crypto. And, when we had those ETFs get filed back in, what was that? I think May 2023. I kind of saw that coming. And the reason why is because money that goes into ETFs, we like to call that more parked money. Like, it's not money that likes to move around a lot. Like, if you call your financial advisor up and say you're, mid 50s, 60s, they're usually not going to be moving your money around a lot. Say it's a 401k or an IRA or a retirement account. Usually that money is parked there for many years. That's really how a lot of these financial advisors roll. They don't try to sell before a pullback. They just put your money in places and they just let it sit. And I kind of saw that coming. I made a video way back then for some of my audience back then. And I basically said exactly that. I said, I think that this is going to bring stability to Bitcoin. And it was crazy to say at the time, of course. And, we've seen, of course, a lot of volatility still. But more so, I just think that a few things I'm going to cover here, Bitcoin is a lot more stable. And I think this weekend proved that. We had altcoins drop 30 to 40%, and Bitcoin was in a range. A range has been in for 2 months. So, onto that point, I think that's why at the core, that's why the cycle has been completely different. That's why altcoins have gotten decimated. That's why there's been so much dispersion. That's why there's been this, the on-chain meme craze. It's just not the same as it used to be. And I think as investors and as traders, we need to adapt. And if we don't adapt, then we're going to get left behind by those that, adapt more quickly. So yeah, that's really my intro to my most base level thoughts of why the cycle is different. And I brought this up on Velo here. This is just a few metrics here that kind of prove what I'm saying. So this right here is the CME futures open interest. Look back at when we hit 69K back in 2021. Open interest was only about 5 billion. So if you look now, Bitcoin is only, it's less than 2 times higher, but look, open interest is 4 times higher. So what this means is that institutional clients, institutional players are way more interested in Bitcoin than they were back at last cycle.
Wow.
And this as well proves that same point. We see the volumes here on CME, 66 billion compared to a high back then of only 28 billion. So as we can see there, this is pure institutional interest. Retail degens on X are not playing on CME. These are people that have a lot of money. These are people that are, very woven into Wall Street, woven into, just traditional finance in general. And I think that this really brings home that point. And we could see here with the options open interest, exact same concept. We only had a few hundred million back at 2021, top of the bull cycle. Now we're at 5 billion. That's almost 10 times more interest from these CME clients and these CME players than, we saw back then. And then the most important one of them all, in my opinion, is, looks like that opened up my whole screen here, but is this one right here. This is the Bitcoin ETF flows. And if we take off all the singular ones, we could just look at the total net flows. And, this is massive. Since the ETFs launched, they've taken in $40 billion, and that's net. So if you disclude the Grayscale that was selling way back then, and if we just look at net, $40 billion is now in ETFs. So that's why, for everybody watching, I'll just say, sit back and think, do we think that Bitcoin is going to drop 80%? Do we think with $40 billion of traditional finance money, do we think that Bitcoin is still going to go through these 4-year cycles where it rinses everybody out? In my honest opinion, I don't see it. With this much capital in Bitcoin, I just don't think that Larry Fink is going to want to be behind something like that. And of course, we might be wrong. We might look back and say, this was absolutely wrong. But last weekend, I think was the best example we could ask for. Bitcoin back at 100K, altcoins down 40% this month. And, you and I have touched on this on our last streams. We've looked at the altcoins. We paired them against Bitcoin. We paired them against Total. And we talked about this, about how altcoins are, they're not something you want to be bag holding, at least not for a long period of time. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to start off with. Is the main takeaway here, guys, is this data proves we are now in an institutional Bitcoin market. We're not in an institutional altcoin market, besides maybe a few. We're in an institutional Bitcoin market. And that's why, in my honest opinion, do we think that these 4-year cycles are going to continue to be as easy as they have been? No. And the reason why is because how many big industries was retail in before the institutions? None. There's never an industry where institutions, had to get in after retail was involved in it. So yeah, that's my intro of kind of what we wanted to talk about here. And I think it's just good things for everyone to think about that's watching is, are we going to see the same bear markets? Because to be honest, most altcoins have been in a bear market for 5 years. They never entered a bull market. They just saw little dead cat bounces. And when we bounce over to charts, we'll show some of that. But we can see Bitcoin, its low is 15K. Bitcoin's at 100K right now. So,
dude, that's crazy.
So yeah. That's really my intro of why I think this cycle is simply different. And to think that the 4-year cycle is going to continue to play out is fine, because that's what we've seen. But I'm taking a more proactive approach and saying I don't think it is.
Yeah, and what's interesting also, in addition to some of these points, I've seen, like they always say, each cycle is not the exact same, but there are a lot of things that rhyme. Oh, Bits is in the house. Let's go. And by the way, Bits and I are going to be jumping on Thursday, so I'm excited for that one. But we're starting to see some of the same behavior. Like I saw Aiden Ross, who's a huge influencer in like the streaming world, come in. He's like trading meme coins. I'm like, brother, you're like 6 weeks too late. What are you doing now, trading meme coins on Twitch right now? But either way, he's in. We saw that kind of behavior, well into the bull market. So we're still going to see a lot of these things and degeneracy, and I'm sure a lot of things will rhyme that you've seen before. But these are important things. Like I've seen a lot of conversation on X mainly. Honestly, I don't even know how much I can trust X anymore. But the timeline is flooded with people giving opinions, but almost none of them are backing up with any kind of data. That's why these streams, I believe, are very unique. That's why I think Dom is going to take over the world basically on CT. At least I hope people like him take over, because he backs up all his claims with actual data. So when you go into the comment sections, it's kind of funny because every argument I see doesn't have any data. They just give a thought, and I'm like, man, you have this opportunity here to debate someone, and you don't bring any data. Like, I feel like it's such a waste. And it's either that they don't have the data because it doesn't back them up, or it's just purely they're in the trade down 90%, and they're like, I don't know what to do. This was supposed to go up, but I'm down 90%. So I have not seen anything like this. The levels of toxicity in this industry has reached all-time highs. I mean, I have never seen this level of toxicity before. So yeah, you bring up some great points and some very interesting data as well, Tom.
Totally. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I like to present things in a, my bad. I like to present things in a, data-backed way. Sometimes I'll give opinion, but usually my opinion is always based on some type of data, to come to that conclusion. So the next thing I wanted to cover here is the Bitcoin balance on exchanges. This is something I haven't seen people talk about, but essentially we can look at this as, the more Bitcoin that's on exchanges, the more readily available it could be sold. And if we look back since, what was this, March 2024, unfortunately, this doesn't go back this far. It doesn't go back that far, but we could see even since then, it was about 2.7 million Bitcoin balance on exchange. It's just been going down, down, down.
Whoa.
And in my honest opinion, what's happening here is, one, people are obviously bag holding, but two, the ETFs are gobbling them up. That's really what's happening now is, we just looked at, what is there, $35-40 billion of ETF cumulative flows. That's Ethereum here. Yeah, over $40 billion. And it's like, where's that Bitcoin coming from? The Bitcoin's probably coming from exchanges. And we could see right here that this is something that we usually don't see in every cycle. I think I used to look at this back then, and it was more so steady or even going up in 2021 bull run. So this shows that, people are gobbling up Bitcoin. And the most important thing I always hear is, just about how Bitcoin and the scarcity aspect of every millionaire can't even own one of them. So,
Exactly.
We have these ETFs that are gobbling up billions and billions and billions. It just kind of leads more to my point that that's probably parked money. For sure, we see some flows, negative 500 million some days, plus 500 million. But in my honest opinion, most of the ETF buyers have not sold. There's of course going to be people that trade that in and out every day. But for the most part, I think BlackRock, who's advising their clients, they're not telling people to buy Bitcoin and then sell it 5 months later. So do you think that they are going to feel comfortable if Bitcoin drops 75% this cycle? I don't think so. And do we think that they can't stop that from happening? Absolutely. They can 100% stop that from happening. This market is still very illiquid in a way. There's not much liquidity. It does not take much money to move this market, and it doesn't take much money to support this market. So I'm not going to call that market manipulation, but I would be pretty sure that BlackRock has a lot of tools that can stabilize this market. And I think that that's already been proven. So the next thing I wanted to show here is the stability of this trend. So this right here shows a heat map based on the percent above the 200-week moving average. And we could see at these peaks, it was really far away from this pink line. The pink circles there, pink circles there, even green. Look at this whole trend this time has only been blue. And we could see, when was the last time we saw the blue? Start of the 2017 run, start of the 2021 run, and this entire run has been blue. We haven't even peaked into that green. It's been hugging that 200-week moving average. So it proves the stability of Bitcoin. And I think a lot of that, once again, it comes back to ETFs. It comes back to ETFs, and it comes back to the market makers that are now on Wall Street, pretty much stabilizing this market. And when I say this market, I should just say Bitcoin, because everything else is, very volatile. But Bitcoin, this chart right here proves that this has not been a parabolic cycle. We've seen some altcoins go parabolic, sure. But back when Bitcoin used to go crazy, like when it went from 10K to 60K in September to March, I just don't think we see that anymore. That doesn't mean we're not going to see, maybe a little bit of parabolic towards potentially a shorter term end of this trend. But more so, this is a more stable trend. So I think that that's something we need to also look at is, the old days of Bitcoin and, a lot of the bigger assets, granted, besides a few maybe, going absolutely crazy, doing 1,000% in a few months. I just think that those times are over. We'll always have those outliers of altcoins going crazy, but more so, I just think that Bitcoin is now a multi-trillion-dollar asset. Billions and billions of dollars are held up in people's IRAs and their 401ks. We're talking about states owning Bitcoin. We're talking about countries owning Bitcoin. Do we think that they're going to get into this market with the volatility we've seen in the past? I don't see it. I really don't see it. So, those are my honest thoughts about why this cycle has been different. And we're going to jump into much more things here, but each of these kind of build off of each other, that this cycle is way different. And I, of course, like to look at I say this sometimes as a joke, but, people trying to look in the rear view for the road ahead. And it's funny because a lot of analysis and a lot of the TA I do is, yes, it's using historical patterns, but more so, I feel like the people that are trying to look in the rear view here, it doesn't work as much as it did anymore. Back in 2021, I said this yesterday, I almost played that entire cycle off of historical patterns. I could pull up the charts that I even made of why I thought 60K would be a top, why I thought we would bounce at 30K, why I thought the bear market started at 45K. And that was all based on historical data. But now I don't see the same validity of that anymore.
Well, we also saw like a bunch of the people who just been buying the whole bear market. They just like a few days ago were like, okay, yeah, I was wrong. Like literally a few of this came out. We're like, yeah, I'm an idiot. Like that did not work. But resetting, whatever. And one thing I'll say, a few minutes ago, you mentioned the SEX's centralized exchange volume is just, or people are moving it from centralized exchanges to their hardware wallets, I guess. That's something I also am literally in the process of doing. I've got it sitting on an exchange and I'm like, dude, this is way too easy to sell. Way too easy to sell. I hate this. And so I was like, I need to get home as fast as possible so I can move this off. Otherwise, this is going to be sold because the volatility and emotional just freaking roller coaster that this cycle has been so far is just so hard to manage. And so I imagine you're right in terms of people are going to move a ton of Bitcoin off. It is interesting that whole point of the fact that there's a lot of parked money now, so much parked money. Yeah, there's almost not enough Bitcoin to crash it as low. And it also makes that statement that a lot of the Bitcoiners talk about where they're like, you'll never be able to buy Bitcoin under this price. I always thought it was a meme, but this year I'm starting to be like, okay, actually, I'm starting to get a little bit nervous now because there will be a point where things start to take off to a point where you're like, damn, I really actually missed that boat. Like if you're buying Bitcoin at 15K, that was probably the last time you'll ever buy Bitcoin at 15K. I mean, I can't imagine we drop down to that low again. And so in some ways, those people calling for it at that moment were absolutely right. They're like, you will never see this again. And you missed it. If you missed that few months that it was there, you're cooked now. So dude, that is honestly really, really fascinating.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Bitcoin should never go down to 15K. Bitcoin absolutely should never go down to 15K. That would be the end of Bitcoin, in my opinion, or at least that would be something would happen. Either the blockchain got reorged, quantum computing attacked the hashing algorithm. Bitcoin's founder is someone in Russia. Bitcoin's founder is North Korea. Those are the only things that would bring Bitcoin down there. So you're absolutely right. And, just back to this chart right here, people keep pulling their Bitcoin off exchanges. There's a lot less circulating supply. And
do you see this from Bits though? Is it possible that they're going to DEXs instead of hardware wallets? Could that be where they're going as well? Or is that what he means? Hold on. There's much better access on DEXs. They make it easier to sell without needing a SEX. Maybe he was talking about something else actually.
Yeah, no, he's right. And that was the next thing I was going to show right here is,
okay, perfect.
Is the DEX to centralized exchange spot trade volume %. So we could see here, I think that this is incomplete data, but we can see January closed at a 20% ratio, the highest ever seen ever before. And that was probably because of the Trump meme coin, but we could see 20% of all volume was on decentralized exchanges. Last cycle, we only had 6%. So this once again is proving that this cycle is much different. People are on chain way more than they've ever been. And even, I don't know where I could see the centralized volume. Maybe it's, right here. I think we touched on this last stream, actually. Look at this, the total monthly crypto exchange volume. It's way lower than it was back in 2021. We had, what was this, 4.1 trillion of total volume in May of 2021. Look, we only have 2.3 here, but we have Bitcoin twice as high. So what does that tell you? It tells you that a lot of the money is no longer on crypto exchanges. It's on decentralized exchanges. And more so, a lot of the people that are trading Bitcoin, which is the highest volume traded asset, they're not trading it on crypto exchanges. They're trading it on ETFs. They're trading it on the NASDAQ. And they're trading CME futures just like we saw. Like the spike in volume on CME futures is crazy. I mean, $66 billion of volume, just last week. That's tremendous. We saw, our highest back then was 28. So it's definitely dispersion, from where we've usually seen. But the next thing I wanted to cover here, this is something that I have used, surprisingly, the last 3 cycles, or should I say the last 3 bottoms and tops. So when we had this, what was this? Yeah, when the last halving occurred back in May of 2020, I saw, and I would use this. This basically prints a color based on days until the halving. And we could see that anytime we top is when we see that lighter green. So lighter green there, lighter green there. And every time we bottomed is when we move from a yellow to an orange. So we could see the yellow to the orange, yellow to the orange. Same thing right here, yellow to the orange. And then we see this green right here, the exact shade of green, exact shade of green, exact shade of green. So it's an interesting thing because I've gotten arguments with people about this back then, and them saying the halvings are complete. They mean nothing for price. It's all based on liquidity cycles. It's all based on the macro market. It's all based on the elections or things like that. And I've always brought back to this chart is like, okay, well then why were you able to pick literally a perfect bottom and top the last 2 cycles just based on this chart? It's pretty interesting to say. And on to that point, I just wanted to bring this up because we're not there yet. This green is when it turns into that lighter shade of green is usually when the market tops. But back to that point, I don't know if this is going to continue to work. It's like, is TradFi, are these traditional finances with, 40 billion plus money in this market? Do we really think that they're going to let people continue to play these 4-year cycles that everybody now knows?
Dude, that's okay. Because that was kind of my thought was that, like I was saying earlier, a bunch of people came out and were like, okay, I was wrong. It was like, hey, my strategy the last 3 cycles is not panning out now. It's like, how do you argue that it's the same then if nothing is panning out? Like your whole strategy failed like entirely. So it's like, how can we stick to the same ones? I feel like the altcoin argument is like almost impossible to argue against because Bitcoin's where it's at and altcoins are where they're at. It's like, I feel like the argument stops right there. Like what else is there to say at that point that would say this cycle is the exact same or there's going to be similar things that follow? It's like, bro, we are very, very different from the past cycles right now. Everyone has gotten wrecked pretty much. If you haven't held Bitcoin, everybody got wrecked. So it's like, unless you just happen to hold XRP and you're a savage like Dom and you had like the 3 winners, other than that, everybody lost. So it's like, what else? What else could you say?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And Andrew, he just said a great thing there. The roster of traders are not only bigger, but they're a lot more experienced. And he's right. He's absolutely right. And if we go back to this first chart here, do we really think that, these people that are trading these CME futures, $18 billion of current positions open, do we think that they're more experienced than, the crypto degens? Absolutely. These people, they have access to way more data. These are the institutions that run the stock market. And just back to that point, are they going to let these cycles be this simple? I don't see it. I just don't see it. And I know Bits, I'm not sure if he's still watching, but he's talked about this as well. Like, it's like usually the herd mentality is not like they don't win. Like if everybody believes something, they don't usually win. It's never usually that easy in any market cycle or, stocks in general, like trying to pick a top before, a big stock market downturn. It's near impossible. And yeah, Bits says they're going to cook retail. And I think that's already happened. And the reason why is because look, all of the retail, what do they want to do? They want to get into these altcoins because they think they're going to go way higher. They want to get into these meme coins because they see people making 100x overnight. And 99% of people have gotten carried out. the amount of people that have made money on chain with these small on chain coins, people don't want to believe it, but it's 1%. It is absolutely 1%. And then they create a highlight reel that brings in all these more, a bunch more people. And they don't want to get into Bitcoin because it's now, it's too big. What am I going to make 50%? What am I going to make 100%? That's way more long-term. People that get into this market, they're not thinking long-term. They're thinking about how they can make money and get rich overnight. And this cycle has completely put them in their place. I mean, yeah, Sebi's completely right. We are at the big boys table here. And if you're going to take anything away from this stream, let it be that. We're no longer in this little casino of, putting money, spraying and praying, like you always say, Cade. I just don't see it. And all of the data has proved that. And what we've seen has proved that. Look, we're basically at this point in the cycle, if we look back, that was when Bitcoin was up and all coins were already up thousands of percent. Last time here, 2017, all coins were up 10,000s of percent. What about now? Most altcoins have not even went up. They're down. So, it's the big boys table. And I think that if you're not going to adapt and become a trader, you probably just want to buy Bitcoin and buy stronger assets that you believe, like Sol and XRP. Sol and XRP make up 80% or a large percentage of my portfolio. And the reason why is because they've been the strongest assets. And I'm not interested in getting involved in trying to pick bottoms on, Sandbox or, Decentraland Mana or Axie Infinity, just to throw out some random names. Like, if those are going to show strength, sure, I'll be glad to trade those. But I just don't see this anymore as a buy anything and make money. You need to be a lot more skilled. And just like what Andrew said, says that these are traders that have been trading FX for years. They've been trading commodities, treasury notes for decades. They know how to play the game. He's absolutely right.
There was also, like, I remember in the I was still around in the bear market. I just was a little bit less active, and I know most people left. But during that time, I watched a lot of Benjamin Cohen, who's a big TA guy. He's one of the bigger ones on YouTube, and he's just a big Bitcoin guy. He loves Bitcoin, ETH. He's fine with the other coins, but he's mainly a Bitcoin ETH holder. And sure. he was just like he's like the Bitcoin dominance guy. Like every meme about Bitcoin dominance has something to do with him, because he's just like every week he makes a Bitcoin dominance video. And I basically had my entire foundation built on that through the bear market. And I just remember seeing everybody else basically besides him was saying the same strategy: buy the alts. And I just remember thinking during that time, the reason I didn't was half because I was broke and half because I was like, there's no way that, like, it's that easy. I just was like, there's just no way it's that easy. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Once the strategy is out there, it has to change, because now everyone knows, and all the people who are winning are like, okay, if we're going to keep winning, we have to switch it up. Otherwise, we can't be the only ones who win, and we're not going to win the biggest. Our slice of the pie isn't going to be as lucrative for us anymore. And that was kind of where I was like, well, maybe I just won't. And so I kind of just sat and waited and watched, and ended up getting into Bitcoin when it was like in the 50s or so. Did not expect a 2x. That literally was not in the cards, but it was a rather quick 2x.
Sure.
And then I said, you know what? Let me just test it out. So I literally took the profits from that Bitcoin and moved into alts. Pretty much, I think I lost like 30% of that, and then just like eventually was like, okay, yeah, this is not the move, actually. Even in some of these ones like Solana, by the time I even got in, it had pumped already. And so everything was kind of cooling off at that point. But I think you're right. There's something to be said about what's the strategies out there, and everybody knows, and everyone's following it. And and not only everyone, I'm talking about like the influencers as you go down the totem pole, right? And each of them is saying the same strategy. That's when all my red flags started to fire. And I was just like, I don't know. So that's interesting that we're at this point in the market, and a lot of the influencers have come out and said, okay, we got to recalibrate here. Something's not right. The strategy needs to change. And I don't know what's to come next. Like, what do you do now? Like, do you have any insights on what you do now that the market is now pushed by institutions? Do we go and learn more from the traditional finance world? Are there certain stocks or maybe the VIX or like the QQQ? Like, should we be watching those, or what do you think?
It's a really good question. And I'm going to be honest. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. I'm trying to get the clear picture of how we're going to move forward in my mind. We've been touching on this for almost a month now. In Spaces, we've talked about this concept just in little tangents. And I've seen it for the past few months, and to put it simply, I think it's pretty simple. You need to put in the work and become a trader. And that takes a lot of discipline. that takes a lot of dedication, and it's not easy, but the reward is infinite. If you can do that and you can learn how to actually trade markets, that's a skill that you could apply to anything. Like I used to trade Forex. I used to trade gold. I used to trade options with stocks. And that to me is like, I don't really care if altcoins die or if Bitcoin goes up or goes down, because I know how to trade. And if you know how to trade, you could always make it in these markets. You could, of course, not every trader is going to always make money, but if you have the skill of trading and you're not just here to buy and hold these altcoins that you hope are going to do 1,000%, you're going to be able to survive. And this is going to continue to be a very fun market if you know how to trade it. I mean, if you were short altcoins 3 days ago, you printed. If you were sitting there like me and trying to catch a falling knife, you printed. These altcoins bounce 50% in a day. That is only accessible if you know how to trade. Like if you're trading spot with a lot of money, sure, you could sell and buy back. But like if you're trading leverage or just perps in general, like that is how you're going to succeed in this market. And if it's not that, and if you have a lot of money, great, buy and hold Bitcoin and maybe a few quality projects, And I think Andrew says, and A says the future is RWAs, Ondo, and the like. Absolutely. Utility coins will prevail. Does your altcoin have a purpose? Does it have a function? If not, it's dead. He's absolutely right. He is 100% right. And it's kind of been my point for a while. And let's see if I could pull up this post that I made here. It was a little bit ago. Yeah, well, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull this up.
Okay.
I won't
By the way,
read it all.
Shout out to Dougie in here. Shout out to Goku, Andrew, Sevi, AH, EH. Man, there's a ton of people in this chat. I appreciate all of you. Please, if you are watching on the Wolf account on YouTube or X, go to Dom's YouTube channel as well. Give him a subscription Subscribe to his channel. Do you say get his subscription? I feel like that's not the right word, but it definitely is. Subscribe to his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Definitely do that, and give him a follow on Twitter, because you definitely want to be seeing more. Twitter is probably where you're going to get a lot more up-to-date, real-time updates from Dom. YouTube, I imagine you can just do that when he gets the chance, kind of thing. So highly recommend getting onto crypto Twitter, not following everyone. Like that was the move last cycle. That was literally my advice when the NFTs were popping off. I said, follow everybody, but make sure you follow these 50 people as well. That was like my main advice. But now I'm like, hey, you should not follow everybody. Actually, you should only follow a certain few accounts, because there's a whole lot more toxicity than anything helpful right now on the timeline. So I think you found your tweet, right?
Yeah, I found it, and I'm not going to read it all. But
okay.
When the market was coming down, I saw people like saying like, I blame this on XRP, I blame this on Trump's coin, I blame this on this, and I basically went in and I kind of explained my thought, and I said that basically crypto's become a casino filled with overly greedy degenerates hoping to take money from other people. And it was a harsh and blunt thing to say, but it's true. It's like the people that are involved in crypto is because they want to make money and get rich. So everybody's attention is on getting money and making money and getting rich. But where are you getting that money from? To make money in this market, you have to take it from somebody else. So I continue to go on, and I said that 99% of this market is complete vaporware. I said, why is crypto even around? And I basically said, imagine we have the stock market, but each stock was just a promise of a company, and there's no actual product or consistent use of them. And I said, that's literally most of crypto. So yeah, I basically said, look at all the coins that are up the most since the election. They're all utility coins. We've talked about this. We talked about the coins, XRP, HBAR, XLM, things like that. Whether or not they're going to actually do something, they at least have a promise or a, approach to try to do something in the real world, in the real financial world. And I basically said, for the first time this year, I mean, what we have in less than an hour, we're going to have David Sachs in the White House talking about crypto. Like, are people not realizing how big of a deal this is? What is this going to benefit? This is going to benefit the cryptos that actually have utility. They're not going to sit there and talk about meme coins and saying, what's the next vaporware meme that's going to make everybody money? So, and I basically said, do we think that real sideline capital is going to come into just vaporware? Is the financial system going to be improved with these vaporware coins? And I basically went through and said that select utility driven alts are holding strong. Almost everything else is destroyed. And I think that that's the market we're moving into, you know? And I said right here as well, just like what I said a few minutes ago, trading liquid assets is a real versatile skill. And I think that anyone that's, you know, interested in trying to improve and get involved in this market and they don't have much money to just buy millions worth of Bitcoin, your best bet is to learn how to trade. It's going to be a long road. It's going to be a hard road, but you're going to develop a skill set that's going to last a long time. So yeah, I think that's, you know, it's a little bit of a tangent there, but I think it's a good point to make for everyone that's involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say also, that's pretty much the mindset I had a few weeks ago. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm down. Bitcoin makes sense. The other things, I mean, you're right. The utility stuff, it's pretty crazy how they played out. Like I was doing a bunch of near protocol content, and unfortunately the chart looks like every other altcoin that hasn't performed.
Yeah.
I guess my main play still there is basically that I believe in their network and infrastructure they're building. But unfortunately, until they come out with something tangible and something they can, it's tough, I guess, because people are saying, well, what about the other coins? They're more or less still kind of speculation / kind of being put to work, but maybe not as much. That's kind of the idea with AI. It's like AI will have the runs and dumps. Unfortunately, it's that first, well, fortunately or unfortunately, it's that first kind of time where AI really popped into the scene when ChatGPT came on. So we're still in those first few years. So it kind of depends on who ends up taking the lead. My only thesis was I believe in Ilya Polsuk and Alex Skinnoff, the two founders. They're just gigabrains, and the guy's friends with Jensen Huang. I just was like, if there's even a sliver of a chance that a crypto company partners with someone legitimate and provides something helpful, Near is that choice. But unfortunately for the price, it's been lumped in with everybody else because they're still building it all out. So we'll see how those go. And I am interested to see how those other coins that are not, I guess they wouldn't be considered utility until they've been able to offer something to the workplace or to the ecosystem that's genuinely helpful. I think it could be an AI project, and I put my bet on Near, but I didn't have like a massive bag on it. I know some people were like, "You're so far down on your bags." It's like, brother, I make content and I do a bunch of stuff, but I just had like a normal bag in a lot of these coins. I wasn't like $1 million. I'm not like rich. I wasn't like putting my entire net worth into Near protocol. That's more into Bitcoin. So, but you're great points there about the trading. I mean, that to me became very clear a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago. It was like new people are getting completely wrecked, and you've got to be able to trade these tickets.
You're 100% right, and I see a few things here saying if a higher grade traders are here successfully remove capital from the retailers, then there will be way less to play with in the space. I know that exponential tech would bring in more new cash. He's right. And I think that that's what's been happening. You know, most people have lost money in this market. Most people that have gotten involved in this market the last 2 years, I think most of them are down. And I hate to say that because most people are not. If you're young and you want to try to make a bunch of money or, you know, try to become successful, you're not just going to buy $100 of Bitcoin and think you're going to become rich. Those days are over. You're going to try to trade and you're going to try to buy these altcoins that are supposedly better to Bitcoin. So yeah, and I think on your point there, Near, it definitely has a good promise of utility, but we need to see the evidence that people are interested in that utility. And, you know, the people that get involved in the space, they're probably going to want to get involved in the tech, you know, and the tech that's doing something. And I hate to single out a few, but Ondo is backed by BlackRock. Ondo literally has treasury bonds on chain. You know, that's something that is utility to be able to, you know, get involved in bonds right inside the blockchain world. That is where this market's moving. Something like XRP and Ripple, people hate them. But at the end of the day, they're partnered with hundreds of banks. They're doing things.
I hate them so much. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different story, but it's like, you know, XRP, people wonder why has it been doing so well? Well, XRP has been around for, you know, 10, 20 years, or I shouldn't say 20, 10, 15 years. And, you know, look, it's still around and they're very woven into the financial system. They can easily be integrated into, you know, any type of bank settlement layer. Whether people hate that or not, that's what's going to grow in value. You know, whether they do that or not, that's what's going to grow into value. So yeah, last thing here before we move on, Bit said a great thing right there. He says too many people are trying to make it in a single cycle instead of learning skill trading or focusing on long-term investing. He is 100% right. He is 100% right. And that's really one of the other takeaways from this whole stream is if you're just going to get in and you're just going to go in the trenches and try to make 100x, you're probably going to get carried out. You might be one of those 1%, but I'm just telling you, you're betting against odds. The odds are you're going to lose. You know, if you walk into the casino and there's a 99% chance you lose, why would you go to the casino? You know, it doesn't make any sense. Just go spend more time working a 9 to 5. You have way better probability of making money. That to me is what on-chain trading is. And that to me is what buying these altcoins and hoping that they do something is. So he's right.
Yeah.
You need to learn.
And not only that, we are in the last leg of this bull market. It's not like getting in now is nearly the same thing as getting in 2 years ago into Bitcoin, XRP. It's just not the same.
No. But yeah, so here, let's move on, and then we'll be able to switch over to the charts here in a bit.
Yeah.
I'll bust through a few of these. If anyone's watching, this right here, Chain Exposed, this is the most hidden, most useful, most interesting platform of data I've ever seen in my life, at least for crypto, for Bitcoin specifically, actually. The amount of stuff that they have here, some of the stuff I can't even understand. It's so deep and it's truly amazing. So if you look at that, chainexposed.com, if you're into a lot of raw data, check it out. You will not be, you won't be disappointed. Bull from the Sea actually is someone that created this, and he's inactive now, but this is something I stumbled across like 2 years ago, and man, it's been up pinned in my browser ever since. I always reference it. Nice. But the first thing I wanted to say here, this relative unrealized profit, it kind of just looks at the unrealized profit of holders of the amount of Bitcoin that have been stationary in wallets. And we could see this is one other reason why this cycle has been different so far. You know, we've not pushed into that usual area that's like, hey, there's a lot of unrealized profit. And onto that point, I think it's a lot because of how this trend has went. So this is something that's a little off topic here, but I wanted to show this because if we ever do get a push into this level, that's always been a signal like, hey, watch out below. So this is something interesting because look at the bottoms as well. Every bear market bottom has been, it's been shown with a drop to this green box right here. And we're kind of just hanging out in the middle. So if we start dropping lower and lower, that would concern me for a little midterm bear trend that we would potentially be into. One other thing here is the fear and greed heat map on Bitcoin. This right here shows that 2021 bull run, we had just crazy greed, ridiculous amount of greed. This one, it's been a lot less greedy, should I say. Up at these tops, sure, we've seen some green, some red bubbles representing greed. But this has been a lot less, a lot less parabolic, a lot more healthier trend. And then right here is the short-term versus long-term supply. So this is something interesting because the pink right here shows you the short-term holder supply. So this is anyone that's holding Bitcoin for less than 139 days. Because look, they went through and conducted a statistical study revealing that the 139-day age mark is a point where coins holders' probability of spending it reduces dramatically. So I guess past that point, if you hold Bitcoin, it's you're considered smart money because for whatever reason, I guess if you hold it longer than that, you're usually going to continue to hold it longer. So if we look, anytime that we saw these crazy parabolic pushes, the short-term holder supply absolutely it increased a lot, meaning a bunch of people bought Bitcoin up there and just recently had it. Same thing here. But here we're not seeing that same thing. So it's an interesting thing to take away that a lot of this has been long-term holders. We have not seen that crazy, onboarding of new capital. We actually have not seen that. And this right here also probably is proving the ETFs. A lot of because this right here can't show you ETFs. So all of the new entrants in ETFs, those people are not going to be shown on here. So it's just something interesting to look at that we have not seen anything near the euphoria we saw the last few cycles. I know you talk about this too, Cade. People have been fearful up here at Bitcoin at 100K. And it's just weird because up here, everyone was euphoric. Up here, everyone was euphoric. But up here, we're not seeing that same.
I'm actually kind of frustrated with how much fear I fear or for how much fear I feel at 100K. I'm sitting here going, what is the problem? Why would I be feeling this? But this market's been tough to trade, and you're right. There's some great points there. There's something I was going to say a second ago. I ended up reading a comment and I forgot. I don't remember exactly what I was going to say. I see Imre. If you after the stream's over, go back to the beginning, I believe we brought up Velo for like the first decent segment of the show. So
yeah, here's Velo. Awesome platform. Absolutely awesome platform.
Yeah. What was I going to say? What was the thing you had right before this? Or there was something you had pulled up right before that, I think. No, it wasn't that. I can't remember. It'll probably come back to me.
Okay.
But
just let me know. Yeah, I'm just going to bust through these last three here.
Yeah.
This is the supply and miner addresses. So this is pretty interesting. Look at the last bull cycle. The supply and miners actually were increasing heavily. But this cycle, miners have been selling off at a crazy rate. So I don't know what to take from this, but I wanted to throw it up here because this is not usually what we see. It seems like miners have been offloading, and maybe miners have been offloading into ETFs. This could be a good theory. I have nothing to really take from this too strongly. Just wanted to bring it up that surprisingly, miners are not holding their Bitcoin the way that they used to. Look at this last cycle. Miner addresses were pretty much exploding. But since we kind of went on that 30K break right there, they've been dropping pretty hard. So that's something I'm watching as well.
That's they hold?
Yeah, that's the amount of Bitcoin that they hold.
Got it.
It looks like about 1.7 million Bitcoin, but back then it was much higher. So the last thing I wanted to bring up here, at least on Chain Exposed, is the amount of active addresses on Bitcoin. And this just goes back and proves that people are entering the space, at least Bitcoin, through ETFs. So what does that mean, guys? It means they can't go buy your little altcoin tomorrow. Their money is parked. Their money is on the NASDAQ. Their money is in these ETFs. It's parked money. And it's interesting because 2017, we had a massive spike of active addresses. 2021, we had a massive spike of active addresses. But look at this cycle. We didn't see that same spike. So this once again shows, guys, retail is no longer in control of Bitcoin. Institutions are in control of Bitcoin. And I presented so much data here that proves that. Like this is pretty interesting to me. Bitcoin is no longer being looked at, in my honest opinion, as a peer-to-peer cash. Bitcoin is now looked at as digital gold. And this proves it right here. Like we're not seeing anywhere near, like you'd think Bitcoin at 100K means the most amount of people that are, playing around on Bitcoin, right? But no. Active addresses back at 2021 were 1.22 million. We're down to almost 700,000 now. And look at this trend. It's just been going down. So this once again proves retail is not entering Bitcoin the way that we used to, the way that they used to, the way we used to think. Retail is actually, if they're getting involved, they're doing it through ETFs, or retail is not involved at all. And this pump is this bull trend has been basically supported by ETFs and by institutional players. So
there's a great point here that actually made me think of what I was going to say as well. So I just saw a tweet from somebody, and they said an account that has been active since like the first days of Bitcoin has now moved some absurd number, like $50 million worth of Bitcoin. And it's the first time it's ever moved. So either somebody just figured out their passcode, their passphrase all of a sudden, or it might be exactly what you're saying, is that for some reason people are starting to offload, but then they're getting gobbled up by BlackRock. And so that leads to my second question, which is also kind of what Andrew's saying. So he's saying, who are the miners selling to? Are they possibly in bed with with BlackRock? And it was one of the things that we brought up in the stream earlier, which was, would BlackRock allow the price to go down? And my thought was probably not. But then my also thought was, I've also seen people speculating that maybe BlackRock is suppressing the price so that their friends can still get in, and that their investors can still get a chance who still don't understand it. Maybe they're still working on them a little bit. That maybe they would allow it to come down in a strategic way, where they're like, hey, they're talking to their partners like, we're going to get you down to 70K. We're going to get you in. We're going to go right back up. We're going to sit around here for a little bit. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, I wonder if that's possible. I can't tell if that's just total conspiracy hopium or what. But I guess it kind of goes along with Andrew's question here a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's conspiracy and hopium. And this is why. Because I've heard people say that since 2017. I've heard people say, oh, the institutionals are suppressing this. They haven't gotten in yet. BlackRock, they're trying to push it down because, they're trying to get their players in. I think that it's too late now, Cade. And the reason why is because what about the people that are already in? What about the 40 billion of Bitcoin? What do you think they're going to say? Hey guys, sorry, we're going to push Bitcoin back to your entry price so you could round trip your 100% gains so our other friends can get in. It's like, no, they've had years to get involved. So I just personally don't believe that. But what But what Andrew said is right. This probably proves that these ETFs are gobbling up so much money and Saylor, they're actually probably selling directly to Coinbase Prime to fulfill the ETF flows, or they're selling directly to over-the-counter desks to go right into Saylor's hands, because they can't go on the open market and buy Bitcoin. Of course, people say that they scale in, they have certain algorithms to accumulate Bitcoin. But if all of the ETFs, if $40 billion of ETFs and all of Saylor just went on to Coinbase and pressed buy, this market would look a lot different. So that's not how they're getting their Bitcoin. It's got to be coming from the people that are creating it, such as the miners. So great point there, Andrew. Absolutely amazing point. That is probably the best explanation for this.
Jeez.
But yeah, the last thing here on the browser I wanted to show is just the Google search trends. Surprisingly speaking, look at 2017. Massive spike, Bitcoin and crypto. 2021, pretty big spike. And then look at now. We're not seeing anywhere near as much retail interest, at least searching up Bitcoin and crypto. So this once again proves institutionals are in control. The institutions are in control, and the institutions have pressed this Bitcoin up. They are the reason for our bull run, in my opinion. And they're the reason why altcoins are getting shredded, because they're not interested in these altcoins. They're only interested in Bitcoin and a few others. And I think that we've seen that pretty spectacularly. So to finish up with this, I think that this goes to a good point that the coins that are about to have ETFs are probably the coins that are going to be around for a lot longer than the others. Because guess what? You could go call up your advisor and say, hey, sell some of my Bitcoin ETF. Let me buy some Sol ETF. Sell some of my Bitcoin ETF. Let me buy some Doge ETF, XRP ETF. They can't say, hey, sell some of my altcoins and let me go buy, Axie Infinity, So yeah, 100%. And then Andrew said, can Dom give a high level of how institutions like BlackRock can suppress price? Yeah, they could do it pretty simply, honestly. And the way that they could do that is they just have to play on these crypto exchanges. So, back to Trading Light, they can manipulate the market by putting sell walls on there, by keeping price pinned, by, using a delta neutral strategy to buy a bunch of Bitcoin while also shorting it. And then at the same time, they could flip that strategy by longing Bitcoin on perps and then selling that Bitcoin, therefore keeping price suppressed. So yes, they would have to be involved through Binance or Coinbase or, some of the bigger exchanges, which they probably could be, and they probably are. We just don't know it. But that's a little conspiracy. I'm not going to say that they are 100% doing that. But all I got to say is they have plenty of money to do that if they wanted to.
See someone saying XRP ETF incoming, cough, cough.
Yeah.
Maybe
is right.
Dom, you have a long-term bag of Bitcoin. You don't have to say that if you don't want to. I have a small, not a crazy amount. I actually de-risked slightly for my long-term bag, just because I was like, I might be a little bit over leveraged here where I'm uncomfortable compared to my net worth. And then my Bitcoin, I do believe in Bitcoin, but there was a point where I was like, okay, I'm clearly way too emotional right now. This might be a little bit too much I have in here at this current moment. I'm okay to kind of, it's not like I pulled my whole bag. Just a little bit enough where I was like, I wanted to have enough cash, a significant amount of cash for if we had another crash down to the 90s or even lower before we went back. I didn't feel safe not having it. And so I ended up just a small little de-risk there. But I do think having a long-term bag of Bitcoin makes sense. I've seen people throw around certain numbers. I think in my head, I could be totally wrong here, but I've always thought 0.1 Bitcoin for the average human being who wants to be pretty loaded in 10, 20 years. I think 0.1 is going to be plenty of Bitcoin, but I still think going for that quarter Bitcoin and then obviously as much as you can, I think will set you up very nicely long-term.
Totally. Yeah. I actually have, I have Bitcoin through ETFs. So that's where I split up some of that portfolio into ETFs. So yeah, I definitely do have a long-term bag of Bitcoin because at the end of the day, it's the most established, and just like we showed, the institutions are behind it, and they've been behind it. And no, it's not going to make me 500% in a year, but over 10 years it might. Granted, quantum computing doesn't come attack it. That's really the only the Bitcoin has three existential risks. Number one, countries say this mining is out of control. We're turning into green world. This is something we're going to shut down. Mining's banned, and that will tank the hash rate, which would cause a lot of people to be concerned. Number two, Satoshi comes out as a bad actor. They are, North Korea or Russia. And number three, quantum computing attacks it before people fork it fast enough. So that's a prediction I gave a year ago. Bitcoin is going to have to fork sometime in the next 10 to 20 years. There's no way around that, in my opinion. Bitcoin's going to have to fork just like it did with Bitcoin Cash. And the reason why is because the current algorithm, I think it's forget the hashing algorithm, but it is not quantum resistant. So that is something that it's going to be a pretty crazy thing. I'll tell you that, because there's going to be old Bitcoin that we all hold now, and there's going to be new Bitcoin.
Wow.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, that's something people don't talk about.
I've not heard anybody talk about that yet.
Yeah, they haven't, but it's going to be on my radar without a doubt.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to have to I've got a few friends who are Bitcoin maxis that are also super intelligent. So I'll have to ask them about that, because quantum's come up a few times. There's some big words, I guess you could say, that people talk about, like quantum comes to mind. And the other word is nuclear. They're two topics of conversation that have entered small circles of people who are high level, but they're not really talking, you're not seeing Thread Guy and these streamers talk about them. I will say, and before we jump into some of these charts, one thing that might be interesting is I do believe that the trenches will stay alive. I just think there might be a bit of a separation between people in crypto and Bitcoin land, people who just remain in the trenches and doing all that stuff. I'm not sure if we're going to see the kind of hype that we saw in NFT land in prior, just absurd amounts of, maybe small spurts of it. But I think there will be a bit of a separation like we're seeing. The split between XRP and HBAR and all these coins and everybody else is so extreme that there's just, I can't imagine a world where it just all blends back together. It seems like they've clearly separated. So I think there might be two camps of people now, and people who live on Twitter as well, which would be really interesting to see, because we got people like Murad, who this meme coin king that everyone was saying is the guy. And he went on the stream a few weeks ago, I think, and was like, I still believe some SBX meme coin is going to flip Doge. And I was just like, what are you talking about? I was like, no, what do you mean? I'm not sure. I think there might be two camps of people though. So anyways, I'll turn it back over to you, because you brought out the cool looking charts and noodles and stuff. So
yeah, can you hear me fine? I lost you there for a second.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to go back and show that, look at the top gainer since the election still. We have Ohm up here, just popped in. That's a new one that's been kind of just running crazy. We have XLM, XDC. Looks like I lost XRP up here. I'm not sure what happened there. Let's see what's wrong with this. But XRP is right up there as well. So once again, proving that for whatever reason, utility has been winning. We even have Algorand up there. But yeah, what I wanted to show mainly is the concept that, there's a lot of things involved in macro as well as to why we haven't seen this crazy push. So if we look here, the orange/yellow is the federal fund rate. So if we see the rates were, very low, 0.3% for the 2017 run, they only got up to about 1%. COVID, see the rate right there, how it tanked to 0. Whew. So that caused this was a 2021 run. And then look at rates now. We've had a push on Bitcoin for the first time in a pretty contractive monetary policy. And something we touched on the last stream, I'm sure you remember the M2 money supply. Look at the growth in M2 money supply even during 2017, and then look at it during 2021, and then look at it now. It's barely even went up. It's barely even went up. So that this proves even more of my point that institutions are what have driven this bull run. It has been pure institutional buying. If we did not have those institutions, I think Bitcoin would still be under 50K. I'm pretty confident.
Okay, so you think that was the move? That's what gave me my 2x?
100%. Or I should say 99%, because I can never be sure, but
sure.
I'm very confident with the environment we've been in. And let me throw on one more chart here just to make it even more busy, is the Russell 2K. So this right here is the small cap stocks. So anytime, let me see if I can get a longer chart here. Russell 2K, let's see if this is it right here. New price scale. Okay, here we go. So we could see when Bitcoin went through the 2017 run, we can see this purple line here was the previous high right there. Russell 2K small cap stocks went crazy. So that showed that there was a good monetary system. Money was being printed. Rates were not that high. People can borrow money, and Bitcoin went crazy. Same thing here during the 2021 bull run. See this previous high here on the Russell 2K? We look right when the Russell 2K broke that high, everything else went higher. Look at right now. The Russell 2K has not broken that high, even though it shows it on this line chart. If you look on a candlestick chart, the Russell 2K is not in price discovery. So this is the first time the Russell 2K has not been price discovery. And look at alts. Alts can't catch a bid. The Russell 2K is the stock market's altcoins. And that also proves even more that Bitcoin is at 100K because of institutions. And most altcoins are not higher because we don't have just money being thrown around all around, you know. So this is an interesting chart. I like to look at all of these, just kind of give more a macro perspective of, you know, we're not in that same idea. We're just definitely not in the same idea.
Dude, that is really interesting to see that.
Yeah, it totally is. Some people don't speak too much about that, but you know, if we look at the Russell 2K here again, I love looking at this chart because it coincides perfectly with, you know, each of these new all-time highs were when the altcoins were going crazy. But look at this cycle. You know, this was when Bitcoin hit 69K. It's lower.
Whoa.
And most altcoins are lower than when Bitcoin hit 69K. But what's not lower? Bitcoin. And why is it not lower? Because of Saylor and the institutions. That's who have driven this market. This bull run was presented by BlackRock. In my honest opinion, this bull run 100% was sponsored by BlackRock and Saylor a little bit. You know, we could say Saylor as well, because guess what happened right here? This was an awesome day in the cryptoverse. I wish I could go back to this day. It was a fun time. This wick right here was the Cointelegraph intern that leaked the Bitcoin ETF being filed by BlackRock. And
oh my gosh.
And we came down and people thought it was over. And then look what happened after. You know, it's been up only since. So that's why I think that this is why we see altcoins, you know, doing nothing. It's why we see Bitcoin dominance on a tear. And it's why this cycle is different. So back to the title. Could 2021 crypto cycle be totally different or actually be different? 100% it's actually different. And hopefully for all you guys watching, you guys learned something and, you know, and you have an idea of why this cycle is different. Because I know some people are like looking around trying to figure it out, but there's a lot of reasons why. And here's one other thing that's perfect is the alts versus Bitcoin. This was a 2021 alt season. Look what we got this time. We're down to those lows. You know, we have seen absolutely nothing compared to what's Bitcoin's done. And for people that have said, you know, when is alt season? We haven't had an alt season. Those people are right. We have not had an alt season. We've had a very secular alt season. And people that disagree with that can look at this chart. This is an alt season. And more so, this is an alt season. This is an alt season. What is this? This is XRP, XLM, and HBAR in Sol season.
That's insane.
That's what that is, you know?
Now, I have heard people say that if we're going to have an all season, it's going to be Q4. For a lot of people say it. They're like, stop expecting it until Q4 is the narrative I'm hearing. In my head, I'm kind of like, I guess, I don't know. But like, we haven't seen any movement. So why would we assume that it just would because it's higher in the year, you know?
That's, in my opinion, that's just pure hopium. Because what data do they have to say that? None. All of the alt seasons have been kicked off in Q1. Here's January 2017. Others went crazy. Bitcoin dominance went down. Look at this. January 2021. Others went crazy. Bitcoin dominance went down. What's happening now? You know, we just had January and Bitcoin dominance just been a new high. So why would they believe alt season is in quarter four? I don't. Of course, you know, everyone could have their own analysis, but it's like you got to bring some data to back it, which you don't have any. It might, it might, and I'm fine with that. But that would even prove even more that this cycle is way different. You know, way different. If we're gonna have alt season in Q4, it's like way different cycle.
That would be crazy though. Amidst like among everything being different, and then still following the 4-year cycle, I'd be like, wait, what? How?
Yeah.
That would actually be fascinating to watch that happen. Because if BlackRock started if they kicked off this bull run, I wonder what their mindset is. Is it, hey, this is the point of no return. Look, we were right in 50 years. Or is it, hey, we're going to run this for the next year, and then you guys have no idea what we have in store next for this next, if we end up having a pullback end of year, or if we end up entering the recession in 2026? I'm not sure. I probably should be doing more research on the traditional finance world as well, see what they're thinking from the broader markets, because everyone's been up for 2 years. I mean, I was talking to Emp. He just came into Puerto Rico last night or 2 days ago, and he's the host for Wolf Financial now. And he's also just a super seasoned trader. He does a lot of futures now. And he's like, yeah, dude, I'm selling all the way up here. We've been up for 2 years. He goes, I'm not entering every single trade now. He's like, I'm buying dips. He goes, but we've been cooking for a while now, so.
We've totally been cooking for a while. You're 100% right. And yeah, I think it's a really good thing to, I don't know, just kind of ponder and to look at the fact that this was the craziest alt season crypto will ever see. This was the second craziest alt season crypto has ever seen. And this was the most embarrassing alt season we've ever seen,
Dude. Wow.
Pretty crazy. It's really, really crazy. And just to bring home the point even more, let's throw XRP on top, and you guys will see what I mean here. Look when XRP went crazy last cycle. Exactly in that box. We could see XRP went nuts in that box right when Bitcoin dominance was going down. Look at 2021. Even though it had the lawsuit, it still went from 17 cents to $2 right when Bitcoin dominance was tanking. But then look at now. This right here proves that secular utility-driven alt season. It proves that dispersion. Bitcoin dominance is higher than when XRP was at 50 cents, but XRP is now at, 260, and Bitcoin dominance is higher. Everything is broken about this cycle, guys. It is completely a whole new game. Not sure if we just had some news. What is it, 2:30 yet? Looks like I just had some alerts.
Not yet. We still got, no, it's not. It shouldn't be. We still got 22 minutes or 28 minutes from that, or something like that.
Yeah,
I know we probably got to wrap here soon. I'm sure you got things to do, but there's a couple questions here we could probably answer quick. So we probably can't give financial advice, unfortunately, on what you should definitely sell and definitely buy. But we've kind of presented a lot of information in this stream. So I encourage you to go back through. We presented a good amount. Well, I should say Dom presented quite a healthy amount of data to kind of outline some of those things with the altcoins. I don't know if you want to give any other thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say because you look at QNT, it hasn't done well. You look at Cardano, it's done pretty well. It's absolutely.
Wait, has Cardano done well?
Oh yeah. Look at Cardano, and then let's look at ICP, or even let's look at ARB. ARB just made a new low. So yeah, it's done well, but yeah, I can't really answer that for you. If I was in your position, I would probably.
He's about to answer.
I'd probably, I'm not going to say anything because it's not my place to say anything there. There's way too many questions there.
Someone says, can XRP still cook?
XRP absolutely can cook, but you need to see Bitcoin cook first.
Absolutely, yeah.
We need Bitcoin above 110K, and yes, XRP will cook. I don't see a place where that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the other question I see, do you see Russell 2K breaking out anytime soon? If not, how do you see the cycle ending? It's a good question. I see Russell 2K breaking out if the Fed continues to cut rates and these tariffs don't shake the market too much. Absolutely. I think that this year we could see the Russell 2K break out, and maybe that is the time when we see some altcoins revive. So yes, I think that there's a good chance that we could see the Russell 2K break out. It's going to have a lot to do with the Fed and how Trump deals with all of that as well.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on what's about to happen in about 15 minutes? For any, not predictions maybe, or maybe you do, but any thoughts on what you're hoping for, what might happen, reactions that could ensue literally in the next, we're about to see it in the next 30 minutes to an hour,
Yeah, I think that if he says things good, get ready for a little pump. I think that because we just reset the board, good news should have an impact this time, Cade. We talked about why was news doing nothing here? Because the market just was dead. We needed a reset. We see what just happened here on others. We had that reset. I mean, that is a reset, guys. So we'll see. I have no prediction to exactly what's going to happen, but David Sachs about to talk about, crypto. Guys, this is huge. And this is going back to exactly the point. It's like everyone's focused on meme coins. We need to focus on what's going to win in a regulatory clarity environment. What's going to win? I think we've already seen the evidence of that, So yeah, we'll see what other question. If you guys have any other questions, definitely throw them in here. You can stick around for a few more minutes.
Terrace full of bluff. It could have been. It definitely could have been. I mean, it's kind of working. Like within 24 hours, he got a response from Canada and Mexico, and I believe China. I don't think China's was so good. I'm pretty sure they threw a tariff on us. But I don't know.
Totally.
Good news.
Yeah. The tariffs, it's way over my head. It's way over most of ours.
Me too.
Nobody really knows what's happening behind the scenes there.
But what you got into both guys? Dom, if you want to answer, I actually think you told me once. But if you want to give like the skinny version, we can. Otherwise, we can wait for a follow-up stream to kind of cover that. I think that's an interesting question, though.
Yeah. I'll cover it quickly. So back in 2016 or 2015, one of my buddies was actually he was into Bitcoin, and he heard about it through a site called Hack Forums. And he, I was too young at the time, but basically we looked into it. I looked into it. We gambled a little bit. I actually bought some fake IDs with Bitcoin back in 2016. That was my first Bitcoin buy. I bought them for other people because people knew I knew about Bitcoin. And basically after that, early 2017, right before the market went crazy, I bought one altcoin called Stratus, and that altcoin went up 2,000% in 2 months. And so I 20x my money, and I was like, whoa, I'm like, what is this? So that was August 2017. And I dove head first. I said, this is going to be my life. This is going to be my path to financial freedom. And I loved the idea of Bitcoin. I loved the idea of all the conspiracies behind it and how, it's going to take over the world and this and that. And here I am now. I never stepped away. It's been probably the longest time was a week away from looking at charts since. So,
wow.
I just love trading, love the markets. And I think that this market is finally going into the time when the real projects are going to prevail. Utility is going to win. And I think that, we've proven that during this stream, last stream, all the spaces, we continue to talk about it. But yeah, so Bit says good news is going to pump everything into resistance zones. Maybe it is. We look at Bitcoin here. Bitcoin's resistance zone is absolutely up here, about this 103, 104.
Yeah.
So we'll see the reaction. If we get a little push up here, great. But I guess the last thing I'll end on here is the total crypto market cap. It retested or it faked out below its previous all-time high. And as I've said, guys, when we see these wicks, this is the start of the new run, or this is the start of the bear market. So it's going to be a fun next few months. It's definitely going to be a fun next few months. And yeah, I hope everybody had a great time in the stream. Hope you guys, learned something, and hopefully it was educational.
Definitely, man.
And
I imagine a bunch of places. Where do you do your trading? I guess he's talking about platforms, maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of different platforms. We have, Blowfin's one where I guess U.S. residents can use for perps trading. You could trade on chain, you could trade Hyperliquid, you could trade just spot exchanges. But as for just actual trading, it's definitely that. Yeah,
I think there's a variety. You can even use decentralized exchanges. They're not as great for trading. Like I don't think Robinhood's excellent for trading. It just depends on what you're looking to do. And then my origin story is just like Dom's. I bought into a coin, it did a million X, and I was like, oh my God. And then I pretty much just jumped in. I went heavy content, so I'm way more of a content background. Now finding myself getting pulled into trading. I did it about a year or two ago in the bear market. I had interest, but I was way more interested in content from a career aspect. So I wanted to lean into that. And now I'm here at Wolf. So I feel like that was a good decision for my part. And now I'm linked up with a bunch of people who are better at trading than I am. And I'm like, okay, sick. This is going to be cool. So I don't know if you guys have seen me looking down this whole stream, but I'm not just on my phone texting. These are just notes. I'm getting back into the game. I know you have to keep a trading journal when you're trading as well. So I'm getting used to I bought a journal literally for that. But if anyone wants to catch any of the highlight clips and moments in these streams, I post them from the Wolf account. And I'm sure Don will post some. I posted for my personal as well, just little sound bites and clips and moments from these streams that I thought were standout moments. There's a bunch in here for anyone who wants to just real quick. I'm just going to run through them in like 10 seconds. I wrote a bunch of little timestamps. So if you're going to go back and rewatch, at 5 minutes, we talked about institutions interested in Bitcoin, talked about the 4-year cycle. Is it over? At the 11-minute mark, Bitcoin and sexes going down because of the ETFs. 13.5 minutes, we went into the 200-week moving average. 25 minutes, we talked about being at the big boys table, what that really means as retail is getting shredded. 29 minutes, we talked about what's next, what potentially could be coming if an institutional run is what we're going to get for the future. 39, we talked about learn how to trade as a skill set or get killed, because it's just not going to work long term if you try and make it in this cycle. It's not the right move. And that was from Bits. Then we had basically from 40 to 50 minutes, talked about Chain Exposed, went through a bunch of data that was really, really interesting. And then honestly, holy crap, there's so many more. I mean, maybe I won't roll through them all, but we went through a lot of different stats and things. Federal funds rates, talked about the Russell 2000, altcoin performance for like the second half for the 50 minutes and past. So just real quick, if you guys want to give a rewatch, I highly recommend. There's a ton to learn here in this stream. And Don, thanks as always, man, for dropping the alpha and helping us out here, dropping some education. I think a lot of people are loving these streams. I'm seeing a lot of good responses here in the chat. And shout out to Bits of Wealth as well.
Totally. Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming by. I hope it was educational. And I guess the last thing I'll quickly end on is, we had the total previous all-time high on total retest, same exact setup in 2021. I've talked about this now for 2 months and it's still my line in the sand. We just had a fake out below. And as I've said now for the last 2 days, like that was the low or the bear market has started. So that's really where I'm going to leave it. And when I say the bear market, maybe it's only 3 months, maybe it's only 6 months. Sure. But that's really my quick, just wanted to throw that in there. So let's see what happens the next few days and weeks. It's going to be really fun. Well, thanks again, everybody.
Yeah, appreciate all of you coming through. Be sure to give him a follow right above our faces if you're on X, right below our faces if you are on YouTube. Definitely give us a follow, and definitely give us a follow if you like this kind of content. We've got a whole lot more coming. Got a space about Bitcoin at 3 o'clock Eastern, which will be tough because that meeting will still be going down. So we'll see. We'll see about that one. But we'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.